Welcome back. You are watching another episode of the World Manager Creative Team podcast. I am Jesse, and as always, we are here with Senior Instructional Designer Geet. And we have Anna, of course.
Hi there.
And joining us today is the newest member of the World Manager Creative Team, and that is Luisa. Hi, Luisa.
Hi.
Cool. So we're all here today to do another podcast. And today we're going to be continuing to talk about the Activ Tool because it's one of the biggest and the best tools that we have in the platform for content creation. Today we're actually going to talk about a really interesting topic, which is creating your 3 core slides. And by this, I mean for any active presentation, you can, of course, take it in any direction that you would like. But oftentimes, especially for brands that are new or people that maybe don't have a big background in creating content for instructional design, creating these 3 core slides can really help you out and set you up for moving forward. And you can use these as a template for basically any type of active presentation that you want. So without further ado, we're going to go right to Anna, who is going to present our first slide. And the first slide that we're going to talk about is our opening slide, our intro slide, which can also duplicate and be used as a closing slide. So it's got multiple purposes here. But this is a great way to start off your active presentation and to kind of set yourself up for what the viewer is going to see. So Anna, we see your screen. It looks very good. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about this slide, kind of some of the elements that we see and what their purposes are.
Yes, thank you, Jesse. Well, this is an example of a main slide that is called the welcome slide. This is the slide the user sees when they start the course. So this slide is a good opportunity to set a full background picture, since this slide usually doesn't have so much text. So we can use these resources as a big background, important picture, using our brand logo, and leave a space for title, leave a space for maybe a subtitle or the fuel gauge name, and it's important to add a big begin or start button for the learner to know exactly where to click when starting the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great example of a great intro slide. Like you mentioned, you've got the World Manager logo, which is just an image. It's a PNG image with a clear background, and yes. You have put down your title, and then if you needed a subtitle as well. And then what you're grabbing onto now, of course, is the clickable area. We've kind of created a button there that says begin, and you put the clickable area on top of the button. And where have you set up that clickable area to lead you? Does it just go to the next slide?
Yes, this one goes to the next slide. And I wanted to add that this transparent layer bar is made inside the editor. I just clicked on shape and adding a square. And when adding the color, I just changed the transparency from 100 to 75%. So it becomes the color into a transparent layer.
I love the way that looks. And that's kind of that's a pretty popular look for different graphics and different content today, is to kind of do either an overlay over the whole thing or maybe an overlay over a certain portion to kind of serve as a text box, which is what you've done here. And of course, it's our World Manager colors. So, we try to keep things consistent. That's one thing that you'll see throughout the presentation is these slides. They're all going to kind of be on brand, and we're going to try to make them all have a similar look and similar feel. And then Anna, so the last thing that I want to talk about is you've got this opening slide here, and we can basically reuse this exact slide as our finishing slide or as our closing slide. So at the very end of our presentation, how could we change it up a little bit just to kind of end things?
Yes, we can take advantage of this layout of the opening slide layout So we just copy it with the copy tool, and we move it to the bottom of the slides presentation. We just change the name for closing or exit one, and we can add closing text, just like thank you for completing this module, or congratulations, you have finished this module. And we change the button. We only change the text, right? We can make buttons here using shapes, rectangles or circles, and change the text to exit or to go to quiz or to close.
That's perfect. No, that's exactly right. So you've basically created your main opening slide and your finishing slide all in one. And you just need to do a few simple things like changing the text on the final button there, so you can finish, so we can close the active presentation. And of course, we've changed the text there. So this is a great start and a great way to finish as well. So thank you very much. Really good job on the opening/closing slide.
Thank you, Jesse.
Sure. All right, so we're now going to move on, and we're going to talk about the second slide type, which is our slide number 2 is our content slide, our body slide. And the intent of this type of slide is after your original opening slide, we're going to have several pieces of content, whether it's going to be different pieces of text and imagery, maybe videos. So this type of slide is going to kind of serve as the main body of your active presentation. And when we're talking about the body of the presentation, you may duplicate this type of slide 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different times, to serve whatever content that you have in this particular active presentation. So we have Louisa, who has created a body slide, and this is a great example of the body slide. So Louisa, you want to just tell us a little bit about what we've got going on here and some of the ways that we use the body slide?
Yes, where in a content or body slide, we have a lot of elements. We have text, we have image, we have some forms that we have to use here, or shapes. Also, we have the buttons, we have the logo, and we have to organize the text. So we can copy in a document that we have all the information, and we paste here. We use for that just the tool text. And when we copy this insert here, and we start to change all the types and the size of the text, we have to be very careful when we use image like a background in this presentation. For example, we have this image. So if we have a text, in this case is white, but we don't have a shape that is too high, we can read the text. So we always have to be careful to create a shape.
Yes.
To the text can be read easily. We have also different size of the text here. We have a heading, it's on 45. We have a title of the slide, also have other size is 26, and that help to the user to organize the way that they have to read the slides. So first you read the heading, later you read the title, and then you read the subtitle and the content.
Yeah, exactly right. And then of course you have your previous back button and your next button down there. So we've got clickable areas on that. And like I said, this is kind of a content slide or a body slide. So it stands to reason that there's going to be several of these in a row. And this is just a great, nice, simple, clean way to present your content. And we have here just a basic text slide, which is totally fine. But we could also, if we wanted to, in that same area, we could take the text away and we could add a featured image, or we could put a video there. I mean, it can really serve as, pretty much anything you want. And it's just a real simple, clean way to kind of display your content, and then move on to the next slide. So I think you've done a great job here. I really like how you pointed out the fact that we, again, have another example of kind of an overlay. We've got this shape that's kind of serving as our background for our text. and you've dialed down the opacity just enough to where you can see the white text on the darker background, and it's not too light or not too dark. So it's a really good job. I like what you've done here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luisa. I appreciate it. I think next we're going to move on to our final slide type. And of course, it's important to remember that you don't have to stick to just these 3 slide types. We're just kind of setting you up to be able to create your core 3 slides, and that's going to give you easy access to kind of moving on and creating future active presentations from these templates. But the 3rd slide type, Geet is going to display for us, and this would be kind of your interaction slide. So when we talk about interaction slides, we want to make the content, as interactive and as appealing to the viewer as possible. And we do that with different ways, different interactions, and that's what Geet is going to explain to us right now. So Geet, why don't you take it away, please?
Thank you, Jesse. Well, what we have right now here is an interaction slide, but from the looks of it right now, it just looks like any other content slide. So this could really float as a content slide in itself, but just to bring more engagement for our learners, just try to shake up things a little bit. So let's first step to this is let's talk about the anatomy of this slide, what we have here. We do like to have an imagery as a background that could be just covering up the whole canvas of our slide. Then we'll like to put up a banner. This banner could be a skinny piece of shape, a rectangle, a horizontal rectangle sitting on top of it. Why this is important is because you could have your brand logo in here over to the left, and also your topic title. The topic title is often very ignored, but at the same time, it's really important. It is your guiding North Star to your learners of what topic they are going to learn about. Then what we have here is another thin little banner just to put any prompting or instruction, some important piece of information that you do not want your learners to miss. We do have a shape here to just highlight the text. So we have a text box, but just between the text box and the imagery as a background, we have put a shape. Now this shape is filled with a color, and as my colleagues have pointed out, it is really essential to bring that, because just to make the text legible and to stand out. The next thing, what we see here are 2 buttons placed at the bottom of the slide, one to lead back and another one to lead in the front. Now we have clickable areas pushed here. And whenever we put any kind of clickable area, please ensure that there is a checkbox in here to prompt a hand cursor and prompt it and direct it to the exact slide. The last but not the least is we have some visual asset that works as a visual marker in terms of, in this case, it is a logo.
Right.
This is a logo of our brand. And what it's going to do is this is literally a PNG image with transparent background. This is going to be very helpful because once we put a clickable area on top of it, we are able to prompt it. We are able to create it into an engaging interactive slide. Now that we've spoken about all the elements of this slide and the anatomy, let's jump in to find out how we can use the same slide to create interaction. What I'm going to do.
My favorite part, interaction slide.
Yeah, we're the man.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on the slide. Make sure that the slide is selected and not any asset. So we have once selected this slide. All we have to do is come up on the top ribbon of the Activ Editor tool and click on these 2 slides. This means copy or duplicate. Mm-hmm. As soon as I click this button, you did see that something just jumped out. This is an exact duplication of your interaction slide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on it and pull it on top of my base slide.
Okay.
And all I'm going to do is jump in this duplicated slide and take off the last text element out of it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to select it, deleting it. So here itself, you can see if we go to the top and just go to the following slide, how things are just starting to build. Now the focus here and the purpose here is to bring interaction. And the way to do it is literally go building your slides backwards. So all you have to do is duplicate and take the last element out. Duplicate and take the last element out. That's the whole game here. Again.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. So if I understand you correctly, what we're trying to do in the way that you're doing it, building it backwards, is when they get the prompt and they click on the World Manager logo, it's going to reveal the first piece of information. And then when they do that, it's going to reveal the second piece of information, so on and so forth. Do I understand you correctly?
Perfect. Now all correct. That is right. Let's just do this one more time so they are seeing this.
Okay.
I'm selecting on the last edited slide. I'm just going to hit duplicate. Another slide was duplicated. I'm just pushing it on top of it. It's just like stacking it up and backwards. Again, going into the text, selecting this and just taking this off. This process could be done as many times as you would like. And each time you take this thing off. Now that it's done, let's try to see how it previews. Remember, this slide needs to have a visual prompt and instruction. So we always have, this is going to be very helpful. Click on the World Manager logo or your logo below to learn more. Let's preview this.
Yes, please.
The clickable area is here, which is not visible in the preview. However, it is still there.
And I see the hand now because you're hovering over it. You clicked it.
That's it.
That's great.
So, I think that's it. This is how we create interaction and make things fun and engaging for our learners.
No, that's great. That's perfect. And so just a couple things that I wanted to point out. So the way that Geet did it just then, that is a super, super simple way to just create a little bit of interactivity, right? So as opposed to kind of a PowerPoint style where they're only clicking next slide. That's a really simple and fun way to just add a little bit of interactivity. Click the World Manager logo and it's going to reveal text number 1, and then click it again, text number 2, number 3. And that's a simple way to do it. You could of course get a lot more complex. Maybe instead of text, it would reveal a different picture every time, a different image. So those are all ways that you can kind of create an interactive slide with relative ease. But then also, I just wanted to kind of point out, so in that case, you had a PNG World Manager logo as your focus point that you put the clickable area over, but you don't necessarily even have to create a separate image or bring in a separate image to do that. If you just had a background slide and you wanted to focus in on any certain portion of that background slide, you could also just put the clickable area over anything and just have them click on whatever it is. So there's just, a lot of different ways to kind of structure something like that to give it just a little bit of interactivity to make it a little bit more engaging for the viewer.
Perfect. Yes.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Our great instructional designers here at World Manager, always happy to kind of impart their wisdom and just to, provide little bits of information, little tips here and there, so we can hopefully help our brands get into the creative mode and create better content, because that's what we're all about. And we're about helping you as our brands create better content as well. I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the World Manager Creative Team podcast. I'd like to thank you all once again for participating and for creating content for it. And until the next episode, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.